one of the games that was really popular during the year that I didn't really latch on to was Stray, and it actually ended up winning Indie Game of the Year. When that happened, I had to take a second look at it and really think hard about whether or not I should give it a shot. Honestly, it was one of the biggest surprises. I was going to lean towards snubs. I still might go that way. Stay tuned to find out. But Stray just didn't seem like something that would appeal to me. It didn't seem like it was really that action-based or required a whole lot of skill. It wasn't that intense. And I wasn't really sure what all the buzz was about the game. So I took the time, played through it. Here I'll lay out my thoughts in today's review. And when I first saw the category, I saw Stray on there. I thought it had a lot of buzz during its time, but I hadn't played it. And honestly, I felt like either Sifu or Cult of the Lamb might have been the obvious one for me. Me personally, out of the group, the only one I'd played was Sifu, and I loved that game. When Stray beat it out, I had to take a look. Stray was on PlayStation's premium streaming pass, so I actually didn't need to pay anything to play the game. I just got to download it, play through. I actually sort of played it on two different versions, PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. I do that sometimes with games because one of them is in one room, one is in the other, and if I'm trying to play through and kind of catch up on games or get through them, then I'll try a little bit on both. But the interesting thing I found out is you can't cross cloud save your saves between the PS4 and PS5 version, and they both have their own trophies, so I ended up doing part of the game on both. But it did give me a pretty good feel for the opening of the game. First thoughts playing the game. I mean, it's a cutesy game. It's meant to kind of give you that feeling of you're a cat, and you do get there. The art style, the art direction, everything is from the cat's point of view. The camera sits lower because of how small the cat is. The impetus for the whole game is that you are a stray, part of a stray pack of cats. And you're the one that ended up falling into this dystopian underground world that was created because something terrible had happened on the surface and human beings had gone underground, and they had all these robots they ended up building and keeping with them, and the story kind of goes from there. But in the beginning of the game, you're just wandering around the outdoors with your cat family, your cat friends, and then, lo and behold, you get separated, you fall down, and now you're stuck in this world you know nothing about. The graphics from the very beginning are very nice. They look fairly realistic. It's not a photorealistic game, but especially when it comes to a lot of the environment looks very, very good. The details, the way that things react, if you walk through brush, etc., it all moves well. The game performs well, especially on PlayStation 5. I did find that on PlayStation 4, it had some stuttering to it. Also, the loading between areas was not great. So if you are playing on last gen, keep that in mind. It definitely doesn't perform as well on a last gen system. But PlayStation 4, it did struggle. I was surprised by that. The story is pretty straightforward. You're a cat, you want to get to the surface because that's where your family is. You end up befriending this tiny little robot, B12, like vitamin B12 or whatever, just because it's written on him and he doesn't remember a whole lot. His memory's all fuzzy. And you're kind of piecing together what happened in this world, what happened to create this underground group, and how in the heck are you going to find your way out as just this little cat. The nice thing about it is that the little robot ends up giving you these abilities that help you on your way. It also gives you the ability to understand and communicate with the different robots that you run into. That was a nice touch, Sometimes in these games, you suspend disbelief and you just accept that the cat can understand what the robots are saying. But this was a nice little, it was well thought out. It was definitely made sense with what was happening. I don't totally know how the cat understands what the little tiny robot is saying, but basically, while the little robot's with you, you can understand the robots. As soon as you don't, you have to rely on these physical cues from the robots and things. And that's all very detailed. It's well thought out. I'm a fan. I like that stuff. To start it off for graphics, I actually really like the look of Stray, the different areas that you end up going to. I mean, the robot areas seem kind of similar, but there are some definite differences between them, especially the first area you start in. You can really tell that this is a group that's kind of down and out, has been beaten down, and they don't think they're ever getting out of this place they've been put in, and they're losing hope on how to reach the outside. And they've got these little critters that are kind of dangerous and they're keeping them where they are. You know, you really could feel the difference as you worked your way through the areas. The robots look great. The cat looks pretty darn good for the most part. You can see some issues with animation if you pay really close attention, especially if you've got like a robot walking down a ramp. You know, they've got flat robot feet, so it just kind of, the ramp will be, I don't know why I'm doing this with my hands. The ramp is going down, the robot foot will step, and then it'll step, and it'll step. The main part of the foot is sticking out. Man, what are the chances this makes it in the video? Not very good. But anyway, so there are little things that you can find that aren't great. But overall, I would say that the graphics really make sense for the story, for the perspective of the cat. The robots look really good. The animations look good. The lighting, the scene, that's probably the standout, honestly, is the environment, especially when you get to the different areas. For graphics overall, I would give Stray a 4.5 out of 5. Really, really strong, really tight, looks good. The lighting looks good. The shadows look good. Excellent looking game. Moving on to gameplay and controls. This is honestly the area that probably was the most out of my wheelhouse. When it comes to controls, I have never played, I don't know if I've played any point and click games since like the original Myst or something way back in the day on PC. And this almost plays like a point and click game because you don't have a jump button. You do have a run, and you've got a meow button, and you've got an interact button, but your jump isn't really jump, it's X. So like you're not trying to space out a jump from one ledge to another, you're just looking at it until the X comes up and you hit X. And it works fine for the most part, but sometimes you end up doing stupid things. I can remember one time I was running from these like sentinel robots that'll blast you if they see you and catch you, and they have like a little warm-up period. So I ran around a corner, I jumped into a hole, and the thing kind of bugged out because the camera wanted to switch and be smooth and go inside the wall and show me where I was going, but then like for some reason my cat poked his head back out the other side and got blasted and killed. So that was frustrating. And sometimes it's hard to find the actual angle where you can see, like you can see there's a ledge there, I should be able to reach this thing, and you kind of turn and you're just trying to line it up to get the X. For the most part, it works well, but it's just not exactly what I'm looking for. I think honestly, if this game was able to go through and figure out the physics of having a jump button and a jump system, I think it would have made it way harder for the developers to make, but it certainly would have made it gameplay wise feel more like a game and less like a point and click. There's still a lot to do as far as running around, puzzles everywhere, just trying to find different things or find missing items and that kind of stuff. But ultimately, the biggest letdown for me is just the point and click nature of it and the fact that it was a little finicky. So for gameplay and controls, I'm actually going to give it a 3.5. Moving on to the music of Stray, it is kind of an odd mix of genres. It kind of boils down to where you are, what's happening at the time. It has this eerie, synthy kind of vibe to it, which I really did like, honestly. I enjoyed it. It's not like these are sounds that are going to linger with you and these songs are going to be stuck in your head or anything like that. But they serve the purpose. They set the mood of the game. It's definitely a mood sound kind of game. There will even be certain areas where there's really not much going on music-wise at all, and that can also add to the atmosphere. The sounds of the cat, the sounds of the enemies, those types of things, the robots. It was kind of cool how the different robots had different noises for their voice. You don't actually hear voice actors for anything in the entire game. Minus like, I don't know if they had an actual cat meowing. But the robots are all kind of like beeps and boops, but in different ranges and different frequencies. The way they did it kind of gave a little bit of personality to the robots, which I did enjoy. Overall, the different sounds in the game, the sounds of the cat's paws running on different textures or knocking something down, the neon buzzing kind of stuff, because there's neon everywhere, because it's an underground thing, and they have a little side story where they talk about how neon was almost outlawed, but then they were so sick of not being able to see the sun that they just started lighting up neon all over the place. So all of that stuff adds to the ambiance. The game definitely has a presence to it. You do feel something because of the sound in these different areas. So I thought it was very good. It's not the most memorable thing, but it definitely sets the mood. So for music and sound design, I will give Stray a 4.0. Let's talk about the story and narrative of Stray. As the stray cat, you have one goal. Your goal is to get to the surface. But because of your interactions with these different robots, especially with B12, you really start to become attached. One of the things that I think really surprised me about Stray, in a good way, is that this game has a lot of heart to it. Even though you're dealing with literally a cat and a bunch of robots, the amount of personality and character and heart in this game is impressive. I think it's probably the main reason why the game did so well and did end up winning the award for Best Indie. The story itself, it's one of those things where it gets pieced together slowly, because you get little bits of information from one person or another. You read someone's journal, and then B12 does slowly regain his memories through the course of the story. You can find them separately. You don't need to find them all, but it does kind of help put together what the heck happened. Why are all these robots stuck underground? And why does the surface world not let them out? And why are these weird blobby looking things jumping at the cat and trying to suck the life out of it? All of those different things. I mean, it was a well thought out story that you do piece together. The amount of heart you end up getting out of a cat and a bunch of robots is very impressive. So I will say that the story and narrative, I will give Stray a 4.5 out of 5. Let's talk about the fun factor of Stray. I think that, again, this kind of leans towards the gameplay. Stray is a fun game in many ways, in that it is lighthearted, even though it is a very dark story. It does help sort of knowing that it's not a very long game, that you just kind of want to push through. As I mentioned, I ended up playing it on my PS5 and PS4. I ended up playing 2 different saves because I was trying to push my way through. At the same time, I wanted to make sure I was recording the solid footage from the PS5. I enjoyed it. I don't think I would go back to play it again, which kind of limits the overall fun that I had with the game. There is a very limited sort of experience with it. Basically, you have the different sections of puzzling, putting together the story pieces, sort of the platforming. It's not really platforming, it's finding the right angles, and it's almost puzzling as well, finding your way around. It's fun for the most part. It can be frustrating at times, especially if you're not quite sure what the next step is. They do give you the opportunity to speak to B12, and he can kind of try and put you on the right path again. I just wish that it wasn't as much of a point and click with the X button just taking you to the next step. They do some fun cat things, the meowing, obviously, scratching stuff. They do work it into some of the puzzles, so it's not just like this useless thing that pops up and you hit triangle and you start scratching. Like it becomes part of the mechanics. It is useful in the game. You do need to do it in order to progress certain parts. And that stuff is fun, that they worked the actual, I don't know, the way that cats function. They worked it into the game. So that part is fun. But overall, not totally my style of game, honestly. I did find myself at times getting frustrated because I couldn't find whatever it was the game was trying to point me towards getting. That's just kind of the innate nature of having the inability to communicate, especially when B12 is not helping you along the way and communicating different things to you. So for fun factor, I will dock it a bit. I'm going to go with a 3.5 out of 5 for Stray. Okay, so final thoughts. Should Stray have won Indie of the Year? I don't think so. I think, honestly, the big deal was that the indie game competition was very strong this year. Personally, I would have given it probably to Sifu, although I will say that is biased because I did play Sifu first. Cult of the Lamb, I haven't played yet. I do intend to play it. Neon White, I have stayed away from just because, again, don't think it's something that is normally my type of game. But honestly, so many people have been talking about how good it is. I think I am going to have to try Neon White. Sifu, I played, I loved. I would absolutely think that Sifu would have made Best Indie of the Year. I think it probably hurt that Sifu came out so early in the year. but I loved the gameplay, the martial arts. Let me know in the comments down below if you'd like me to spend some time on Sifu. I did enjoy that game a lot, and I would certainly welcome going back to get some footage of it. So again, Cult of the Lamb, I want to play. Sifu, I loved. Tunic, I will play as well. Definitely another game that I've heard a great deal about and very interested in. Neon White, like I said, I don't think it's in my wheelhouse, but there have been so many people glowing about this game and it's so different. I'm going to have to give that a shot. And Stray ended up winning. Stray had a bunch of buzz behind it. A lot of people were talking about Stray when it came out. I'm not a cat person, so maybe that kind of taints my view. But I will say this, I enjoyed Stray more than I thought I would. It's a game with a lot of heart. It's not very long, but sometimes that's a good thing because games can overstay their welcome. The story of Stray, I actually really enjoyed. The graphics, the game looks beautiful for the most part. The sound does a great job feeding into the overall atmosphere. Like I said, my biggest drawback was in the gameplay. I did not love the point and click nature of the game, and that also kind of hurt the overall fun that I had with it. But I can understand why Stray won, and I'm okay with it. It's not my choice. Overall, I can't take anything away from Stray because I felt that there were better indie games out there because the indie competition was so strong this year. So, for my overall score for Stray, I will go with a 4.0. I do think this is a game that you should play, especially if it is in one of the streaming services that you have for free. I enjoyed Stray more than I thought I would. I can see why it was up for consideration for Indie of the Year. I still probably don't agree that it should have won, but I would recommend playing it. Full price, it's $29.99. It's not an expensive game. I'm okay with paying that price. I think if it went on sale for like $19.99, it's worth picking up. So I would say pick it up on a sale or just play it streaming now. But I'm okay with that and going forward with that recommendation. If you're not sure what to play, but you want to try one of the best games of the year, it was in there, okay? It's not out of its league. It's not unheard of that it was considered for End of the Year. I just felt like there was a tough field and there were probably some better options. But we'll update that as we go along because I do intend to play Neon White, Cult of the Lamb, and Tunic. I will be playing. And like I mentioned, Sifu, I really, really loved. So let me know in the comments down below. Did you play Stray? Are you going to check it out? Do you think it really was Indie of the Year? As I mentioned, I don't, although I still have more games to play. Thanks for watching. More videos are on the way. Subscribe to make sure that you are here and get notifications for when they pop up. And I will see you there.